My first set list, I made a lot of songs with silly titles. Dinosaur Sex, I Want to Be Darth Vader. There was also a very, very bad cover of Soulja Boy's Crank Dat.
Hello.
Tell me about your very first gig.
I did a lot of gigs, some more cool than others. There was one at a peanut factory. It was like a rave. That one was very cool. I went with my parents, less cool. I also did a very early one where I forced two of my friends to dance on stage with me. And luckily, there were only about 5 people in the audience. 2 of them were my parents, so shout out mum and dad. Always been there for me.
Did you have to convince your parents to let you go?
To be honest, it didn't really take much convincing for my dad. He was kind of like, let's go. My mum a little more so. I think really I wanted to go on my own initially, and I think that was quite worrying for them. So they were coming out of support, but also so that I didn't go alone and do a load of dumb stuff.
Can you see traces of your early work in your music today?
I think there will always be elements of the younger me in what I do. I mean, I was so inspired by nightlife when I was younger because it was so, exciting and fresh. And where I grew up, me and my friends, we weren't really in culture. We weren't experiencing nightlife or London. We were just watching Skins. That was sort of like the closest. And so to go to these raves and parties and stuff, it really affected me a lot. And, I think there's a reason that a lot of the subject matter of my songs is still surrounding how you kind of find yourself, who you are, have these quite life-altering experiences in parties. Even when we were on set earlier, I was playing the Daft Punk live album at the Coachella one, and that album makes me tear up. It makes me emotional. Just because I think wow, imagine being there in that crowd, listening to one of the greatest bands of all time, in this huge kind of collective group experience. It's a very kind of emotional place.
And Brat feels like a return to the club.
Yes, I really just wanted to try and write a record that felt as conversational and direct as possible. And sometimes I suppose that feels a little confrontational or aggressive. Sometimes it feels blunt.
How did that lead into the music videos?
The music videos for Brat, I think they each have, so far, they really have their own personalities.
You gon' jump if AG made it, if you love it, if you hate it. I don't fucking care what you think.
The idea for the Von Dutch video was sort of about me being very combative with the camera and the camera kind of being a person.
I'm just living that life. Von Dutch, cult classic, but it's still pop. I get money, you get mad because the bag's up.
We were thinking about that movie La Femme Nikita, or is it La Nikita Femme? I always forget which way around it is. And how kind of the camera moves in that film, and how it's super kind of dynamic. And that was kind of one thing that I felt was really kind of a personality trait of the record itself, very fast, spontaneous, and kind of not second guessing. And then in the 360 video, it was kind of about, getting together girls who I felt sort of embodied the personality of the record and who were all kind of unique and doing things on their own terms. They're all the reference, whether that be Alex Consani or Gwen Blackwell or Gabriette, Julia Fox.
Oh, Charlie, that's literally Julia Fox. Yeah, sorry. Hi.
Do you have any fun stories from that set?
Honestly, we were just being so silly. It was silly vibes. It was silly times. If you put all of those girls in the room, it is kind of chaos energy and a lot of TikToks and a lot of vaping.
How'd you come up with Brat Green?
It's so funny, it's called Brat Green now. But the fact that it is actually quite gross and unpleasant makes it very interesting because it's one of those oh, look away but look again type things. It spoke to me because it was sort of anti-trend in so many ways. Green had already been such a popular colour with you know, I don't know, like Bottega green to literally Spotify. And so to kind of use a color that I felt was already quite oversaturated was kind of funny to me, because that's annoying in itself. I had a lot of help from people kind of adopting it, whether that be people or brands or politicians.
Was there one pop star you wanted to emulate when you were younger?
I really thought that I wanted to emulate Britney Spears, just because I grew up listening to her, watching her, and she was so like the opposite of the girl that I was. She was blonde and bubbly and sort of fun and pretty in this way that I just didn't see myself as. And I think when I was younger, I like desperately wanted to be blonde. That was such a big thing for me. And I loved her music, you know. It's funny, like when I actually got into the music industry, I was like, whoa, I could never be like that. Also, you get asked those questions a lot, but like I actually really didn't want to emulate anyone. I didn't think of music in that way because I wasn't really listening to music like that. There was no like one person really when I like answer that honestly, you know.
What advice would you have for your younger self?
Gosh, this is so cheesy, but really trust your gut. I know people say that all the time, but I've definitely done things in my past where I've felt that I've been sort of swayed into a creative decision where in hindsight it's felt a bit wrong. So I would say trust your gut, and also like don't be afraid of who you are, because I think I've spent a really, really long time being afraid of who I am, feeling like I wasn't cool enough or looked the right kind of a way, or you know, wasn't sort of smart enough in conversation or funny enough or whatever. And actually it's like, well, we're all gonna just forget about all of this anyways, and we're all gonna die one day.
No one's going to forget about you, Charlie.
Well, no, but you know what I mean. It's just like, it's serious, but then it's also like not that serious. Have fun, live, laugh, love.
So who is Charli xcx?
Who is Charli xcx? She's me.